I'm Andrew Edwards, and you're watching Gear Live. Earlier this week, Apple didn't just announce brand new smartphones in the iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro, but they also announced a brand new Apple Watch. If you've been wondering if you should upgrade the Apple Watch you already own, or if you're thinking about buying an Apple Watch for the first time, in this video I share the 5 things you need to know before picking up an Apple Watch Series 5. What's going on, Tech Squad? Andrew Edwards here, editor-in-chief of GearLive.com, and as I mentioned today, we are talking about the brand new Apple Watch Series 5. The Apple Watch has been one of my favorite devices over the past several years, specifically because, as I always say, I'm a big fan of tech. I like cool tech as much as the next guy. However, when you can use technology to greatly improve someone's life in a way that doesn't only make the technology cool, that is really what shows the potential of what this world is doing with technology. And I don't think any company, especially in the tech space, has done as much as Apple to use the tech that they're working on to legitimately make lives better and in many cases save lives as well. Now, I was able to get some hands-on time with the new Apple Watch Series 5 at Apple's Fall 2019 event in Cupertino at the Steve Jobs Theater. And after hearing everything Apple had to say about the watch, I think there are 5 essential things that you need to know when making your purchasing decision. By the way, if you haven't seen it, be sure to check out my first hands-on look at the iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro. I will leave a link to that down in the description below. And be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon if you want to stay up to date on all future videos. Now let's jump in to the Apple Watch Series 5, the 5 things you need to know, starting with what may be the single best update, in my opinion, to the Apple Watch, and that is the always on display. This one is huge as it solves what has been my biggest and pretty much only complaint about the Apple Watch since the very first Apple Watch about 4 years ago. The fact that I always needed to do the wrist raise motion in order to see the time, which obviously isn't a big deal every time or most of the time, but there are times where you just can't do this type of motion, but you do want to see the information that your Apple Watch would display if the screen was on. Now with the Series 5, that is a thing of the past. The Apple Watch Series 5 gets a new display that allows the time and other important info from your complications to remain visible at all times, whether you raise your wrist or not. All the different watch faces have been optimized for the new display, with each one basically getting 2 different versions of the watch face. There's an active mode when you do the wrist raise, and there's a passive mode that isn't as bright and isn't as information dense, but is always on. In order to preserve battery life, Apple used a low temperature polysilicon and oxide display, aka LTPO, an ultra low power display driver, an ambient light sensor, and an efficient power management integrated circuit, all working together to allow for a display that stays on all day while the Apple Watch maintains its 18-hour all-day battery life that it's been known for. Again, I know that feature may not be the biggest deal to some, and I'm sure there's some people out there wondering why I can't just raise my wrist to take a look at the time. But like I said, it was a minor annoyance, and now that annoyance is gone. Thank you, Apple. Moving on to the next major thing you need to know about the Apple Watch Series 5, it now has a built-in compass. That's right, Apple has built a compass into the Apple Watch Series 5, which apps can use to improve navigation features. For example, when in Maps, you can now see the direction you're facing right in the app, or when using third-party apps like Night Sky, the compass helps the watch show you the constellations that are above you as you move your watch around. Fitness apps can also tap into the compass, giving you elevation details, and there's even a new dedicated compass app that allows you to see information like heading, latitude, longitude, and your current elevation as well. So the compass isn't just meant for use by the Compass app, it's used by any app that wants to tap into the compass to provide you relevant information or features. Okay, up next, following up on the Apple Watch's use of technology to improve your life, any cellular Apple Watch Series 5 can now tap into international emergency calling. So for added personal safety while you're traveling outside the country, if you get into a situation where you need to call emergency services, your cellular Apple Watch Series 5 will be able to connect you to those services right from your wrist. Now, the cool thing about that is it'll work regardless of where you bought your Apple Watch. So whether you bought it in the USA, Canada, Europe, Asia, whatever, you buy an Apple Watch Series 5, this feature works regardless of where you bought it. And secondly, and more importantly, it'll work even if you have not activated a cellular plan on your cellular Apple Watch. If you have a cellular Apple Watch, and even if you don't pay for a plan for it, international emergency calling will work for you. In fact, the feature even works in conjunction with Apple Watch's fall detection. So if you take a hard fall and remain motionless for about a minute, the Apple Watch Series 5 will then contact emergency services for you, even if you're out of the country. All right, next up for Apple Watch Series 5, the fourth feature you need to know about is that we have new case materials this year. That's right, on the heels of the titanium Apple Card, the company continues its use of titanium with two new titanium Apple Watch Edition models. When I picked these up in the hands-on area, it was striking how great they looked and also how light they were compared to my stainless steel Hermes Apple Watch Series 4. If you want to go with titanium, you have two different colors. As I mentioned, there is the brushed natural titanium finish with a custom engineered surface that allows it to maintain its color and resist staining. And there is also the space black titanium model, which uses a diamond-like coating to give a super stealth look to that titanium casing. Now, if titanium and metal isn't your thing, this year also celebrates the return, the glorious return of the white ceramic Apple Watch casing. Now, as a lot of you know, I had a white ceramic Apple Watch Series 2 and I had a white ceramic Apple Watch Series 3, and I was super bummed, I was dejected, I was saddened, I almost felt betrayed when the Apple Watch Series 4 was announced without that ceramic option. So I'm super happy to see that the ceramic has returned here with the Series 5. And last on the list for the things you need to know about the Apple Watch Series 5 before making your purchase is that Apple has heard loud and clear the cries from a lot of Apple Watch customers, and the response is they're now letting you customize your entire Apple Watch before you make the purchase. This is called Apple Watch Studio. So now for the first time, you can order the exact Apple Watch that you want in the exact casing material that you want with the exact band that you want. When purchasing a Series 5, either in a physical Apple store, the Apple Store app, or apple.com, you can now pick your perfect case and band combination rather than having to choose from the more limited and specific combinations that Apple chooses for you, which is how it's been since the launch of the original Apple Watch. So there you have it. Those are the 5 things you need to know about the Apple Watch Series 5. And I'm sure you're wondering, I'm gonna get the questions in the comments somewhere, which Apple Watch did I order? Now, I took a poll on Twitter because I was having a hard time making the decision between white ceramic and titanium. Both look excellent, both look striking. As I said, I've owned 2 white ceramic Apple Watches and love them to death, but I made the decision this time to go with something that I've never had before, which none of us have ever had before. I went with a space black titanium Apple Watch. So I'm gonna give that a try. I'm gonna see how it looks. I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy how much lighter it is than the stainless steel Series 4 that I have now. But all in all, you cannot go wrong if you pick an Apple Watch Edition model. They all look amazing. You can pre-order the Apple Watch Series 5 right now, and the Apple Watch Studio is available right now as well. So if you want to pick the Apple Watch casing and pick the specific band, you can do that right now. And the watches will be available on September 20th. The GPS only version starts at $399, and if you want a cellular model, that will start at $499. Let me know in the comments below if you plan on picking up an Apple Watch Series 5, or are you happy with a previous generation Apple Watch that you already have? Let me know in the comments. I'll meet you there for further discussion. Don't forget, I have a video on the new iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro, and I have more videos coming on everything that Apple announced at the event, including upcoming reviews on all the hardware. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, I appreciate your support. I'm Andrew Edwards, and I will catch you in the next video.